This video is just an update of week 3 of my wilderness telemedicine elective in South Africa. I'm filming this back in Glasgow as I ran out of time to make this while still out there. Things got busy. This week felt a little bittersweet as I was now over my halfway time out there, and every moment had been exciting and useful and fun. I spent the first half of the week researching more cognitive biases and trying to sort them apart from heuristics and other mental processes. It was exciting because this work was starting to venture into new territories. I continued to learn about the consultation and decision-making process when communicating to your patient through a phone, and how to ask the right questions so you know exactly what's going on. I also learnt some neuroscience behind the importance of having face-to-face calls via video link, and why we trust faces more than voices. My supervisor also taught me a fair amount of learning about learning, which skills are best for taking in and retaining information, and which are not very helpful, but are the normal ways of learning, such as rereading textbooks. Studies have shown that rereading a book won't increase your score in an exam on the content of the book, but testing yourself on what is in the book whilst rereading it will significantly increase your score. On the Wednesday evening, I was lucky enough to go along to the opening gig of South Africa's biggest name in comedy, Trevor Noah, with paramedics and other first aiders. It was his biggest event so far, and the venue was full with about 13,000 people attending. It was an iconic stage, and I felt very privileged to attend the performance. Only one person fell ill right at the end, and it was an intoxication, which I've had plenty of experience with while working back in first aid at various gig venues and festivals in the UK. During the second half of the week, my supervisor took me and 3 other medical students, plus a member of the army and 2 other students, and a guide into the Poolensberg National Park, where we were trained in various simulated wilderness medical response and wilderness techniques for 3 days in the bush. It was absolutely incredible. We were practicing core skills in a remote, adverse environment, as well as adaptability and working under stressful conditions. These skills are crucial to functioning well far from home and in resource-poor settings. We were away from the city, the hospital, and our usual available kit. We learned what is the most vital kit to bring with you out on a walk into nowhere, in case someone becomes seriously ill, and you can deal with just about anything to keep someone alive for up to a day until they can be evacuated if needs be. We trained in airways, stopping major bleeding, and unconsciousness, all the common but deadly things that can occur, but with the added pressure that you're in the territory of wild animals, and night may be coming soon, and with that, very cold temperatures. Or maybe you're somewhere that a vehicle cannot easily access. It was an incredible experience also, because we were sleeping without tents, under the stars, each of us taking it in turns to be the watchman for about an hour to 2 hours, making sure no dangerous animals such as lions, hyenas, and rhinos are sneaking up. During your watchman time, you sit by a fire in front of the campsite, one which we had made without matches, and you watch and listen. You have a torch to swing across the horizon every now and then, or if you hear something, and if there's an animal there, its eyes will reflect the torchlight. I heard leopards on my second night. It was amazing. They were very close to us at one point, but never came close enough for me to want to wake our park guide up. We also didn't have phones or watches, so we were telling the time by the moon. It had just passed full moon the day we arrived, so it lit the sky up beautifully still, and the stars were stunning as there was no light pollution about. I saw a constellation called the Southern Cross, which I had been seeing my whole time in South Africa, but I'd never previously seen, as it's only there in the Southern Hemisphere. We cooked delicious meals over the fire, including braai, which is a South African barbecue, and potjie, which translates as little pot and is a stew cooked in a cauldron. We ran scenarios like a nighttime mountain rescue, in the time between the sun going down and the moon coming up, so we were in almost complete darkness, just with torches. That was particularly nerve-wracking, as we thought we would have to carry our supervisor down this incredibly steep mountain in a stretcher we had made out of a mattress and belts. Another scenario saw 2 of us responding to a situation where a rhino had stampeded 2 people, and one was bleeding intensely from his brachial artery, and the other was unconscious somewhere, hidden, far away in the grass, and we had to find him. Added to the fact that there was a supposed rhino somewhere nearby, and our supervisor was piling on stress by acting as the worried friend of the injured folk, constantly asking questions and shouting. It was an enlightening experience. The strangest scenario we did was to ventilate a drowned patient whilst barefoot and blindfolded, waist deep in a watering hole. The idea was to make us so comfortable with core life-saving skills in strange situations that when we come back to do it in hospital, it will be second nature, which frees up the brain to think about other things, like what to do next, stress-free. We also practiced suturing and inserting chest drains into pig carcasses. It was 3 days of intense practice mixed with quiet, introspective times spent at the fire during the night alone. One of the biases I'd been reading about back in Joburg is the information bias, the tendency to seek information even when it cannot affect action. An example is asking excess questions when you don't know what to do, even though the answers won't help you make a decision. My personal tic related to that turned out to be reaching for the pulse oximeter when I'm stressed and need to buy time. This is really useful for me to be aware of, as in the future when I find myself treating someone and reaching for the pulse ox, I can ask myself, do I know what I'm doing? Do I have a plan? If the answer is no, I can take a step back and think before doing anything further. All in all, it was a fantastic week, absolutely jam-packed with different things, and I feel I've learnt so much to bring back to my practice in the future.